I don't know how they will be able to bring peace to the region. This is a joke. These people are not looking for peace. They're not looking for peace that is founded on truth. And this is why I want from the state of Israel to be very careful how we're working with these allies. I am sure that we're not fighting for the same purpose. And we need to be very careful not to deal with the consequences of such political ambition and unchecked lust for power.
What is the plan in Gaza? Well, let's learn from Mosab Hassan Yousef, the son of Hamas. What his perspective, he is the son of Hamas. Let's hear from him what his thoughts are, what is going to be happening in Gaza and in Iran.
Do you think we are close to witnessing the collapse of the Iranian regime?
I really don't know. I don't know. But also, I don't see that the IRCG and the Ayatollah and their ideology just disappearing suddenly. And I don't see the means of how to actually overthrow them without creating so much chaos and bloodshed. So it's very hard for me to say at this moment.
I understand you do not advise Israel to go into this battle now.
I advise Israel to fight and defend itself, but in intelligent means. And Israel has the means. Israel has the most powerful intelligence service in the world. They know the mullahs very well, and they can keep them paralyzed if necessary for as long as it takes. Never allow them achieve mass destruction weapon or ballistic missile launching capabilities. That is, I highly encourage the state of Israel to continue doing this business. It has been in this war for very long, whether if it's a cold war or a hot war, Israel led the way. But what I don't want to see Israel getting involved in attempts to change the goal from security-driven war to a war driven by changing the regime that suits superpowers. I don't think that this is Israel fight at the moment. And I hope that whatever decision that they make is not going to have consequences.
Why do you think Trump decided to halt the speculated attack against Iran?
The preparation for war against Iran, I think, was before the protests took place. I think the United States was preparing a surprise attack. The protests happened, and I don't think that they actually helped the United States because the United States was not ready yet. Remember, they were just out of Venezuela, like literally out of Venezuela.
Yes.
And I think they were taking them one by one. So their plan against Iran was not in the right time when the protests happened. But the protest gave Trump the moral cover why he should go and fight the mullahs, because his announced reason, they have been killing the civilian protesters. But in reality and the truth, this is not what Trump is doing. Trump is after the Iranian oil and natural resources. And I think it's a very big gamble. I think it's a very dangerous one, and it's bringing us back to similarities of situations in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Yemen, and in Syria. And the situation, in my opinion, in Iran is very delicate situation, very dangerous. It's a minefield. This is not Greenland, where mining natural minerals is very easy and smooth. It's a minefield that could lead to the collapse of society, a civil war, and consequences that we might have to deal with for the next 10 years or 20 years. And what I don't like, that I get involved in a war driven by greedy world leaders that are going after the oil, going after the natural resources. The type of fight I allow myself to get involved in is a just fight that is not going to gamble with the lives of 90 million human beings. That's a problem. Because I think the least of Trump's concern, the least of his concern, is the Iranian people. And I don't want this scenario to be repeated by fancy ideas about overthrowing a dictatorship to free the people. No, it's not about freeing the people. It's about freeing the oil. This is the real intention of such leadership. And this is not driven by justice. The Iranian oil belongs to the Iranian people and to the Iranian people alone. It's their right to decide what they do with it. And up to this point, they don't have the power to overthrow Ayatollah. We need to ask ourselves why they don't have the power to overthrow Ayatollah. Maybe because he has enough support, and if he has enough support and he has a real base that is connected to him ideologically, then we need to be very concerned before we start arming the people and pushing the people towards clashes, because it's going to end up much worse than Syria. And hundreds of thousands of people, possibly millions of people, are going to die. So lying and to say that our objective and our goal to free the Iranian people, while in reality we are gambling with their lives to control the oil, I think this is deceiving, it's dishonest, and the consequences for such a thing are going to be deadly.
Now let's talk about Hamas. The United States government is announcing the transition of the so-called second phase in Gaza and even to the so-called Board of Peace. What is your opinion on this?
Demilitarizing and de-radicalizing Hamas and Gaza, the Palestinians in general, because it's not only Hamas, there are so many other militias. It has been the condition for Trump's peace plan. So now to try to go around it is not cool. I want to see Hamas totally disarming and to see Gaza completely de-radicalized before I jump on tasks to build Gaza or rebuild Gaza or any of that. And up to this point, they haven't delivered. So what these guys are doing, I don't understand. I don't know their motives. I don't know why they're coming to Gaza. I don't know what they want to do in Gaza. And I really don't give about their plans. What I care about, that I don't want more repetition of this scenario where terrorist groups, whether if it's communists, jihadists, it doesn't matter who's going to come hijack it, to weaponize civilians in the future for political and financial gain. Enough of this play. I don't like it, and we don't want to repeat it. So now for the big players to come and do whatever they want, ignoring the reality that Gaza has been the breeding ground for such terrorism, for hateful indoctrination, and for victimhood. And now they want to ignore all this. I don't know how they will be able to bring peace to the region. They call it the Board of Peace. This is a joke. These people are not looking for peace. They're not looking for peace that is founded on truth. And this is why I want from the State of Israel to be very careful how we're working with these allies. I totally understand that we could be fighting against the same enemy, but I am sure that we're not fighting for the same purpose. And we need to be very careful not to deal with the consequences of such political ambition and unchecked lust for power.
And now, as an Arab, do you think it is truly possible to think that Hamas and Hezbollah can be disarmed?
Well, they should. There are two options: disarm or die. It's not hard to figure out.
But what do you think they will do?
It's their choice. It's their choice. What they did on October 7, what they did for Gaza, what they have been doing throughout the region. This type of savages, this type of barbarians lost their right to exist long time ago. The only way to deal with them is by the means of force, by the means of the gun. To negotiate with them at this point is validating them, legitimizing them, and proving their strategy of targeting civilians, of weaponizing civilians as a successful experience. This is why I don't like the entire plan. And if they keep ignoring this problem and playing their big game, they are going to wake up to face this reality sooner or later. The condition is to disarm these militias, send them to exile, or even send them to hell. Who cares? There is no way in between. And all the short halfway solutions, that means that we will have to deal with this problem 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when such politicians would be long gone. So we have to be very, very careful. And we have been actually dealing with the faults of politicians for an entire century. That they appear, they make decisions, then the generations come and have to take responsibility for their poor judgment, poor choices, greedy ambition. Enough of this.
If you were the prime minister now, what would you do with Gaza?
I don't know what the prime minister, what type of forces, how much he has to compromise. And thank God that I am not the prime minister, because you see, I will not compromise. It is going to be breaking bone with everybody. So I'm not a politician. I'm a free thinker, and this is the way I see it. This is not Trump's business in Gaza. This is not Turkey's or Qatar's business in Gaza. I want them out of the picture completely. And I want for Israel to do everything they can to make sure that the threat has been eliminated completely, and Palestinian militias will never have the capacity to attack Israel again, ever again, and they will never have the capacity to weaponize their civilians for any future war. This is when I will be satisfied. But what do I want to do with morons coming from outside and want to decide the future of the region? The same way I don't want to interfere with the Iranian business, I don't want anyone from outside to come and interfere with the future of Gaza and the future of the state of Israel.
Quieter perspective, listening from this very brave Yousef Mosab Hassan. We have watched and listened to him since he crossed over the line, when he left his family, he left his ideology. He was the son of one of the founders of Hamas. Now, there is a death wish on him. His own family abandoned him because of his journey. He learned and realized that the way he was brought up and the ideology that he was fed, breastfed, the hate against Israel, the Jewish people, and the West, he realized early on that this is not the journey of life. He has become a spokesperson, has traveled the world under great danger and talking his thoughts. He is very brave for doing what he is doing, but he is doing it not only for himself, but for the future. The world needs to know what is happening behind the curtain, as they say. Many of us are not aware of the true foundation, the fundamentals of the ideology, unless you have lived it, you have experienced it, and you have studied it. And this is exactly what Mr. Hassan Mosab Yousef has done. He grew up with this ideology, and he understood where he's coming from and where it will end up and how to deal with it. As the saying goes, there's nothing better than seeing than hearing. Here you're able to see Yousef Hassan Mosab talk his heart out of what his feelings are. He's not as optimistic about Iran as he is about Gaza. Iran, he brings up some very pertinent concerns, which is why the war hasn't happened yet. This is why the government hasn't been toppled yet, because there are so many different dimensions that this has to be done tactfully, carefully, procedurally, in a way that it's going to be sustainable. We don't want this government to leave and then a worse government to take over. Or even worse yet, becomes a civil war between the various factions in Iran, which would be disastrous. Right now, there are 90 million Iranians that are held captive by this ideology. Once this ideology is removed, it needs to be done in a way that Iran will not just erupt in just worse than it is now. And this is perhaps why all the world leaders are treading carefully, strategically, so that when this does occur, because it has to happen, this regime has to go. They have proven themselves over and over again that their commitment is to world dominance and nothing short of that. Their commitment is to annihilate every single Jew and Westerner. And they will do everything within their ways and means with that ideology to make that happen. We cannot allow that to happen. That does not have any place in the 21st century. That is 6th, 7th century discussions, not now in 2026. 2026, no one goes and terrorizes and bullies the world into submission to their religion. You want to believe in something, believe in it. Live and let live. No one has to believe what you believe just because you believe that. And just because we don't believe what you believe doesn't mean we deserve to die. That is not religion. That's a death cult. That's evil. And that has no place in the 21st century. We are at a watershed moment in history right now where we have such potential that this tyranny can be toppled. And there'll be freedom to 90 million Iranians. And if done correctly, either they'll, as Hassan said, either they'll run into exile and a new government with a true democracy will be voted in to govern all of Iran, and Iran can become free people again. No longer will the resources of the oil is going to be used for producing ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons to destroy, but rather they'll use their oil resources to support the Iranians. And this is perhaps, I disagree, I don't think what Hussein Mosab, Yousef's thoughts are that this is what Donald J. Trump is after the oil. I disagree with that. I think Mr. Donald J. Trump is after the threat that Iran has on the world. You know, during the 12-day war last June, Israel and America could have either destroyed all the oil refineries if they wanted to. They could have taken all the oil if they wanted to, but that's not the goal. The goal is to bring stability to the regime, to bring stability to the Middle East. Since 1979, the Middle East has been a tinderbox that keeps on blowing up at every side. It's been terrorized basically by the state sponsor of terrorism. This has to stop. We have to get rid of the bully in the Middle East. Let's just imagine for a while, if we can just dream, what would the Middle East be like if Iran has been stabilized, neutralized from this jihadist ideology? If Iran goes back to the way it was in 1979 and it's no longer a threat to its neighbors, it's no longer a supporter and sponsor of terrorism to the Houthis, Hamas, to the Hezbollah, all the other proxies around the world. Imagine if the oil that Iran produces, which they have the world's greatest supply, invests it in their own people, invests it into peacetime. They have so much oil, resources of energy. What do they need nuclear for? They have enough oil to energize Iran for the next 1,000 years. What do they need nuclear for? They want nuclear to have the nuclear arms, to be able to bully the world into submission. And this we cannot allow to happen. So let's pray and we hope that the world leaders have put together a strategy to free the world from this bully, from this tyranny that's going on in Iran. Let the 90 people in Iran find their freedom. Let's give them back their religious freedoms. Let's give them back their human rights. They deserve to live as free people. Think about how Iran was prior to 1979 in the times of the Shah, where Israel and Iran were allies. Iran and the United States were allies. We had an embassy there. The brain power between all the countries worked together in unison. We were always stronger together. There was a daily flight from Tehran to Tel Aviv. The students used to go between universities. The doctors exchanged accomplishments. The engineers, the lawyers, all industries between both countries collaborated with each other. One could only imagine, fast forward in the 21st century, how Israel has been in the cutting edge of all innovations and inventions. And imagine if Iran can join together as partners, how much it could produce for the world, so much more positivity and so much more accomplishments and innovations for all mankind. This is nothing short of messianic times. We are at the brink of a breakthrough, a watershed moment in history. Let's see this through. The time is now. If not now, when? If we don't take care of it now, we're going to have to deal with it down the road. So let's deal with it now. Let's all hold our hands in prayer to God Almighty in heaven. Bless the world leaders. Give them the means and abilities to be able to do what has to be done quickly, swiftly, peacefully, and let's bring this dramatic change to the Middle East when there's a peaceful Iran who recognizes Israel's right to exist and renews its diplomatic relations with Israel and the West. Not only would the Middle East be more peaceful, but the whole world will be. God bless you. God loves you.